I've yet to see a player complain about the length of a review when it goes in their team's favor.
I mean, fair point. Fair
You know,
point.
Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of The Drop. Greg Wyshynski, Arda, Öcal, twice weekly, Tuesdays, Thursdays, wherever you get your audio podcasts as well. The NHL on ESPN YouTube. Sad news to report, Connor Bedard, broken jaw, successful surgery, but out 6 to 8 weeks. That meant we did not get the Controverse Part 2 this week, and also means, Greg Wyshynski, that we will not see the Bedardian one at the All-Star game.
Yeah, we won't. And, this All-Star game, I'm super psyched for it. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I love the idea of it being a limited player skills competition, have like a dozen guys all battling each other in hockey-centric skills, no more hockey golf for this edition. And we're not going to have Bedard. We might not have Jack Hughes, who's week to week for the Devils. It's getting kind of bleak. Got to have some stars in the All-Star game, Arda.
Yeah, you certainly do. That's one of the criticisms going into it. You have players that are like 115th in the point scoring race, etc., that are in the All-Star game. Listen, I understand it. You need a representative from every team. I get that, but I agree with you. Star power is necessary as well. What does this do? Connor Bedard out 6 to 8 weeks. In your opinion, what will this do for the Calder Trophy race?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was a little uncomfortable to see people getting giddy because Bedard got hurt, and that means like Brock Faber has a chance to win the Calder. Basically, the way the landscape looks right now is, according to our last NHL Awards Watch, where we ask the actual voters for their ballots, Bedard was unanimous. Bedard was the runaway winner. But we did have a few voters, Arda, that were like, if something happens to Bedard, if he gets injured, then Brock Faber of the Minnesota Wild probably has my vote. Faber's been incredible. He's playing the kind of minutes you'd expect a 10-year pro to play and doing the kinds of things in that lineup that a veteran defenseman would do. He's a legit candidate for the Calder. If you look at the scoring race right now, you have both Marco Rossi and Adam Fantilli less than 10 points behind Bedard. In Rossi's case, he's only about 3 goals behind Bedard. So given that Connor's going to be out for at least 6 weeks, he's going to come back and find himself with a pretty considerable distance behind other rookies in the scoring race. So Faber benefits, Rossi and Fantilli benefit, Luke Hughes probably benefits. That being said, Arda, the last time we had to deal with this was when Connor McDavid was a rookie. And he got hurt, and he was limited to under 50 games on the season. And there was a points per game argument to be made for Connor that he didn't win. In fact, it was Artemi Panarin that won the Rookie of the Year that year, and Connor finished third behind Panarin and Shane Gostisbehere. Bold prediction. Bold prediction is that Connor Bedard will play enough games to have the voters say, okay, it's a goals per game, it's a points per game argument against these other rookies. I don't think he's going to lose the Calder despite this injury.
If it stretches further than the projection, that's where we get into the territory. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
He needs to hit like 50 games, at least 50 or maybe even over 50 games.
Yes.
And then I think there's an argument. But honestly, like, look, there was an argument to be made about Panarin that year against McDavid. Like, Panarin was great. All due respect to Rossi, all due respect to Fantilli, all due respect to Faber and Luke Hughes, none of them are Connor Bedard. Like, Bedard is demonstrably the best rookie this year. Yeah. And it would be a shame if this injury took that away from him. Yeah. And I am not convinced the voters will take it away from him, even if it's on a limited games and a goals per game, points per game argument.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think he's earned it, especially based on what he's done this season. He just needs more games to pad the stats to really cement it. I do want to give a shout out to Brock Faber because he is somebody who we have not been speaking about in the Calder Trophy race at all, quite frankly. If there was a defenseman we were looking at, it was Luke Hughes. But Brock Faber has really cemented himself into this conversation. So shout out to him.
Yeah, to be a rookie and play like 24 minutes a night is insane. Amazing. Like, he's been fantastic. So again, I'm not saying that he's not a worthy Calder candidate. I'm saying Connor Bedard is the Rookie of the Year. He's the best rookie. And an injury shouldn't necessarily take that away from him if he has a commiserate number of games to qualify for the award, for lack of a better term, in the eyes of the voters.
From 24 minutes a game to no minutes a game for the Philadelphia Flyers. The drama that the hockey world is talking about, a different kind of brotherly shove. Cutter Gauthier has been traded to the Anaheim Ducks in exchange for defenseman Jamie Drysdale and a 2025 second round pick. The exit, by all accounts, was acrimonious. The comments from the Philadelphia Flyers camp, top to bottom, were very clear. You don't want to be a Flyer? You're not going to be a Flyer.
Out of here.
There is a lot to unpack as it pertains to the Cutter Gauthier situation. The one thing I do want to mention, Elliot Friedman did mention this with our friend Jeff Merrick on his radio show. The best explanation to what he believes happened from sources that he trusts said that there was a conversation between Cutter Gauthier and the Philadelphia Flyers after BC's season ended, Boston College's season ended last year. And Cutter Gauthier said, I want to turn pro. And the Flyers said, we can't do that at this time because the bonus overages on your contract would make us non-cap compliant. And there might have been a disconnect on how that information was received. The Flyers' stance seemed to be, we're still going to give you a great chance to make the team, perform well at camp, exhibition games next season. There's going to be a spot for you. We're stopping short of guaranteeing it, but it's quite possible. On Cutter Gauthier's side, perhaps the sentiment was, you didn't bend over backwards to make this happen for me. I want to turn pro now. This feels like a slight from the Philadelphia Flyers organization. And soon after that meeting, as is reported publicly, he decided he no longer wanted to play for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Right.
So, Wish, with all the information that's out there, what is your reaction to Cutter Gauthier and the Philadelphia Flyers and the way things ended?
And we still don't know. I mean, like, if the sum result of that issue with the Flyers, if it is going to be that contractual thing of him wanting to play, if the sum result of that is a lack of faith in Danny Briere and the leadership of this team, because remember, it wasn't Danny Briere that drafted Cutter Gauthier. It was Chuck Fletcher. The team has a new GM and has a new team president, and it could be that, because of that experience, his faith was shaken in playing for this organization. The thing I don't think is true is the John Tortorella of it all. There's a lot of people who felt that, Gauthier didn't want to play for Tortorella. Tortorella infamously is somebody who is hard on young players. Ask Pierre-Luc Dubois about that. And maybe he didn't want to play for Torts. Every indication I've gotten, every indication I've seen is that was not the case, that Gauthier didn't have an issue with John Tortorella. So we don't know for sure. I have a feeling that he's going to probably not talk about it until well after his college season is done. And then maybe, when he joins the Ducks. But, from a hockey trade perspective, Arda, it's really fascinating. I mean, the Ducks did a pretty good work here. Pat Verbeek, their GM, he did a full evaluation of the team and of his system, and he decided that there had to be a premium put on trying to find people who could put the puck in the net in his top six forward group. He was also dealing from a position of strength. The Ducks are extremely deep as far as young players on their blue line to almost make Jamie Drysdale expendable, which is not something you'd expect to say about Jamie Drysdale a couple of years ago. They had a contentious contract negotiation, did Drysdale and the Ducks during the summer. It got resolved right before the season started. Verbeek said it didn't play into it. I don't know if I believe him on that, but the bottom line is that from a hockey trade perspective, I think the Ducks did really good for themselves here. The Flyers go out and get themselves a really good young defenseman. And now the question, to go back to the Tortorella of it all, Arda, is Jamie Drysdale going to become a defenseman who levels up under the Tortorella tutelage, or someone who gets his spirit crushed because he can't play defense to Tortorella's liking? That's the real question for me in the next couple of months.
I liked what John Tortorella had to say when asked about Cutter Gauthier. We got the quotable moment. We got the headline, I don't know Cutter from a hole in the wall, right? But then immediately after that, he said, I want to talk about Jamie, the guy that's coming to my team. So to me, that was a masterclass in how to handle that situation, especially for someone like Torts. If he doesn't want to talk about it, he's not going to talk about it. So I thought that was great.
I got to tell you that I think the NHL has really perfected the formula this season. if you can give me messy Vanderpump-like drama for the entire regular season and then the best postseason tournament in organized sports, I think that's a formula for success. I love the fact that we're as messy as we are this season in the NHL, including this Gauthier thing. But in every drama, Arda, there are winners and there are losers. Let's talk about some winners in the Cutter Gauthier drama this week.
I will start.
Please.
Philly identity is a winner for me because there's been lots of talk about Philly and Flyers identity in this new era with all of the new faces, relatively new faces as well, in coaching, management, executives, etc. The Flyers and Philly identity. And quite frankly, one of the things that has happened as a result of this is the city of Philadelphia, in particular Flyers fans, have all come together in this, if you don't like our city, then get the hell out kind of mentality.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is a massive win. And quite frankly, we could look back on this moment and it could be a turning point in terms of identity, because this is a rallying cry for that city.
Yeah, exactly. To that end, one of my winners is Comcast Spectacor chairman Dan Hilferty, who's the CEO of the Flyers. He went on the Snow the Goalie podcast during the game when all this broke and basically gave fans the green light to give Cutter Gauthier the John Tavares returns to Long Island treatment when he comes back to Philly as a member of the Ducks. He basically said, it's going to be a rough ride here, and he's earned it because we're Philadelphians and we want people that want to be with us. So good on him, endearing himself to the Flyers fan base immediately. And again, like you said, rallying to the cause of the aggrieved underdog Philadelphia identity that we all know and love.
Winner, the Anaheim Ducks. In particular, the potential of what the Anaheim Ducks can become. Now you're adding Cutter Gauthier, who has the potential to be a top-line guy in the NHL. And he's joining a team that includes Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, Leo Carlson, Pavel Mintyukov, and Trevor Zegras, if he sticks around. Obviously, there's rumors out there that he might be on the trade block as well, but right now he's still on that team. So that is an impressive young core that Cutter Gauthier is joining, and that could be very, very scary for a lot of teams in the league in a short amount of time.
Oh, yeah. Winner for me, Eric Lindros. When's the last time we talked about Eric Lindros this much? When he got in the Hall of Fame? That dude was all over social media, people referencing the fact that the Flyers once benefited from a draft pick refusing to play for the team that drafted him. And again, if you're a Flyers fan, you got to like the history. Count the number of Stanley Cup banners the Colorado Avalanche had after the Lindros trade versus how many the Flyers have. So maybe Philly, again, gets to see the other side, how the other half lives, in a trade in which somebody didn't want to play for them.
Can I tell you my super random first thought when I heard about the Cutter Gauthier drama was, I can't wait in 25 years when Cutter Gauthier joins a Philadelphia sports talk show and after all the drama finally puts on a Philadelphia Flyers jersey, just like Eric Lindros did, like well after his career, went back to Quebec and wore the Nordiques jersey in a full circle moment. Maybe we'll show the picture right now, but I don't know why that's stuck in my head, but it's just hilarious.
Time heals everything.
You're right. But that time is not now. Losers.
Indeed. Losers. Go ahead, bud.
Batteries. More specifically, how people misinterpreted Frank Saravalli's tweet about JD Drew and batteries, attributing it to Dan Hilferty. This is not Frank's fault, by the way. This is the fault of people that just read a tweet and did not watch the video. So I'm just making the way we consume social media and the way we just like draw lines from A to B to C, inventing these scenarios and just running with them as if they're fact. I know there's a much larger problem there on social media, but I'm saying this is a specific example here. To me, that's a loser in this whole thing.
Neither Frank nor the president of the Flyers is asking people to throw 9 volts at Cutter Gauthier when he comes back.
Exactly.
Don't even give him the snowball and Santa Claus treatment either. To that end, delusional conspiracy theories are my loser. We had a whole situation this week where Kevin Hayes got dragged into the fray by a Philadelphia Flyers podcast, floating the idea that he was the influential voice that made Gauthier not want to play in Philadelphia. Hayes immediately, through ex-players and through conversations with Danny Briere, the Flyers GM, said that is not the case. The Flyers believe him. It was a really weird and nasty situation. Kevin Hayes saying that he received death threats. He received messages referencing his deceased brother. Like, I swear to God, if you consumed the Cutter Gauthier drama and your response to that was to send a message like that to Kevin Hayes, to those fans, you are the absolute scum of the earth and an embarrassment to the sport. I cannot believe that that's where this situation went this week, but lo and behold, it did.
Disgusting behavior. And Kevin Hayes had a very long response about it when asked. And quite frankly, it's disappointing he even had to address it at all, based on just a comment on a podcast, his fingerprints all over it, et cetera. And it blew up into this. To that end, my next loser is communication in general. Now, I have now everything you said falls into this. Everything I said about batteries and how we consumed tweets on social media also falls into this. But specifically, what I'm referencing here is the communication between Cutter Gauthier and the Philadelphia Flyers organization near the tail end, specifically the World Juniors. Team travels to Sweden, tries to meet with him. Player ghosts the team. Now, we have not heard from Cutter Gauthier as we record this. That is an important part to this. At some point, I assume he will address this in talking to the media and will tell his side of the story. Until then, all we can do is speculate based on the information that's available.
Yeah.
All we know is that there was no conversation that was had at World Juniors. Could there have been? Apparently, what happened was he informed the team over Zoom that he didn't want to play for them anymore.
After World Championships, yeah.
Right. So, but the thing is, could there have been one more in-person conversation? Did both parties deserve to give the others that one last conversation in person?
Because the Flyers went through this whole process thinking you've changed your mind once, like maybe you change it again. And I think that's a fair assessment when the guy's been wishy-washy about the whole thing.
And you guys are in an agreement, right? Like, this team has your professional rights in the NHL. Might be worth the conversation.
Yeah.
And again, this is based on everything we know at this present time.
Yeah. So last loser for me is Danny Briere, unfortunately. A guy I like, a guy I hope does well in that job with the Philadelphia Flyers. But look, Cutter Gauthier was the second best prospect in the Flyers system. Briere didn't draft him, but he's the GM that lost him. And when you're trying to convince your fans that you're on the right track, that you're building this thing, that you've got the players in your system to believe in going forward, and then you fumble a guy out of the organization for whatever reason, it's a stumble. And especially a stumble for a guy that's still earning his stripes as a GM in Philadelphia. The whole thing obviously hinges on what Jamie Drysdale ends up being for the Flyers. God forbid it doesn't work out, how bad this looks for Briere. You can't convince a guy to play for you, but you still have to wear it if he decides he doesn't want to play for you after saying that he did. And so Danny Briere, I think, comes out as a loser in this situation.
So again, I can't wait to hear Cutter Gauthier's side of things when he finally does address it the next time he has a press conference or speaks to the media. Someone who spoke to us was his World Junior teammate, Isaac Howard. And boy, was this a fun interview. Definitely listen, especially if you are a fan of Chipotle. What would you do if you got a full year's supply of Chipotle? We ask Isaac Howard that exact question and more. Enjoy. Joining us now on The Drop, Isaac Howard, a.k.a. the Iceman, a.k.a. and more importantly, gold medal winning forward for the U.S. Men's World Junior team. Team USA victorious at this year's World Junior Hockey Championship, selected 31st overall by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Joining us now on The Drop. Isaac, first of all, congratulations. You've had a few days now to reflect on the tournament. You get to hold that gold medal in your hand. My first question is, where will the gold medal go? Are you going to put it on a mantle? Are you going to give it to the parents? Like, where does it go?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that yet, to be honest. I'm thinking probably just hanging it, next to my bed, just so I can kind of see that every day. You know what I mean? It's a fun thing to look at. So I'll probably just put it up on like a hanger, hang it in my room.
Motivation, nice.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. So the game was awesome against the Swedes, obviously very intense. What was the deal with the brawl at the end of the game? And on top of that, how would you describe your teammate Lane Hudson's fighting style?
Yeah, I mean, I think the emotions were high, obviously, in that gold medal game. I think they were kind of looking for something at the end of the game, and a couple things led to another, and then Huddy Huddy got in a nice little scrap there, and I thought he did good. Like he kind of dodged a big right hand and was able to take the guy down, and that was kind of it just added to how fun the win was, and everyone on the bench was going nuts and loving it.
Now, Isaac, did he dodge it or did he just kind of miss him because, Lane?
I like to say Lane dodged him. Lane, yeah.
Isaac, one of your more famous quotes was with our colleague Emily Kaplan at the draft, talking about your fashion sense. You saying you're the best looking guy there, moments after you were selected in the NHL draft. My very important question to you is, were you the best looking guy on Team USA?
Yeah, from a non-biased point of view, I'll have to say yeah on that one. Just stick to what I believe in.
Love it. Love the consistency, Isaac. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of your team, man, obviously this week, one of the biggest stories in hockey, Cutter Gauthier deciding that he is going to peace out, not play for the Philadelphia Flyers. They trade him to the Anaheim Ducks. What was your reaction to seeing that whole thing go down with Cutter this week?
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I didn't know obviously that was in the works or anything like that. And but I guess that's a side that can happen. It's a business and trades happen and whatnot. But I was definitely a little bit surprised.
Could you ever imagine knowingly making yourself public enemy number one to the fans in Philadelphia like Cutter just did?
Yeah, I mean at least he's got a strong mind to him. I think he'll be just fine.
Take me into the day of the draft, Isaac. I'm very curious about you were selected 31st overall, right? So you're right at the border of the first and second round, but you are a first round pick. But I'm curious, in the selections leading up to the end of the first round, how much are you thinking about that? How much does that matter to you to be selected at the end of the first round versus the second round? Does that go through your mind? What were your emotions like as the selections continued to come down near the end of the first round?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big relief. Like I didn't want to have to go through that process again, you know what I mean? Wake up and head back down to the rink the next day. So I was just waiting to hear my name called, and when it finally happened, it felt unreal. And it's such a long process. Like I feel like I was there for like 4.5 hours, just waiting because once you're there in person, it just goes by so slow. And finally, when I got my name revealed, it felt awesome.
Arda's Canadian, so he's going to hate me bringing this up again, but like USA Hockey is kicking tail all over the place right now. You guys were thinking World Cup, whatever they're going to call it in 2025, we'll win that. Olympics 2026, the Hugheses, the Kachucks will win that. What does it feel like to be coming up at a time when the US is really making its big move internationally?
Yeah, I mean it's awesome. You can see it kind of throughout the whole country. Each kind of throughout all the states, there's players coming up, and just the depth our country has gotten is awesome, and it's just becoming a really cool and exciting hockey country, which is awesome to be a part of.
Isaac, I'm literally only wearing this "Don't Puck with the USA" shirt in respect to you and your accomplishments with Team USA. Okay, I just want you to know that.
All right, I like that.
All right, the big elephant in the room. We have to talk about this. So the team gets free Chipotle for a year.
Oh yeah.
So I have a lot of small questions about this. First of all, do they give you a card? Like how do you redeem the free Chipotle for a year?
It starts next week for us, and it just goes through our phone. So right on our app, they just load it in every day, and I'll be looking to abuse that for sure.
Is it unlimited? Like, can you go 3 times a day if you wanted to?
I don't know yet. I haven't gotten the full details. But I think it's either like one entree a day or one swipe a day. I'm not sure yet completely.
What's your order? What's your go-to order there?
Normally it's a bowl, white rice, double chicken, black beans, guac, cheese, sour cream, and then the vinaigrette, of course, to top it off.
Solid on the white rice. Love that. You stay away from the fajita toppings, which I think is a little bit odd, but to each his own.
Not a fan of those. Yep.
Okay.
What is it about hockey players in Chipotle, man? Like, not only is like Jack Hughes landing, endorsement deals, but I know like the boys on the U.S. junior team, like you call it chipper, I think, right? You go every week. Like, what is it about hockey players in Chipotle?
It's just like, I don't know. It's just like the perfect little meal after a skate or a workout or a long day. Like you just want to go get a chipper bowl, and it's nice that it's kind of, not like deep fried or anything. You're getting like real meat, chicken or steak, and it's kind of just, it's the package. So many guys like chicken and rice, and then you go to, Chipotle has that, and it's tasty. So
we have to set up an interview with you after a year to do a deep dive on how the year unfolded. Isaac, I'm booking you right now for a year from next week so that we can hear about your year-long journey with Chipotle. There was an NBA player, Isaac, Mikal Bridges, that said, I've been eating Chipotle every day for the last 10 years. So like, this is I know you relate to this. I'm just curious though, like, do you think you will be going every day? Like, do you think you will be going to Chipotle every day? Or do you already go to Chipotle almost every day?
I would say I go to Chipotle like 3-4 times a week right now, and I'll probably go 5-6 times a week. I'm sure like game days would be the only like day I imagine I don't go.
Damn. Gold medal by the bed, Chipotle in the tummy. That's what being a champion is, ladies and gentlemen. Last one for me, Isaac. When you think about your chance to come and play in this league at some point, play in the NHL, is there one guy you've been dying to look across the ice at? Is there one guy that you've kind of is your dream guy to play against when you make the league one day?
I mean, there's a ton of players, obviously. Like not one that, particularly is in my mind, but just once you're finally on the big stage playing in the NHL, and there's kind of superstars, all over the league, and it'll definitely be really cool to look over and face off on some guys that I grew up watching, and I think that's one of the coolest parts about becoming a player in the NHL.
Who was your guy growing up?
I really liked Ovechkin. He was one of them. I loved his swagger, his goal scoring. Like he was just really fun to watch. So he might be one that would be cool to play against.
What do you think it'll be like playing in the Wild Arena?
Yeah, it'll be sweet. I mean, I that's the rink I grew up watching. It's just like 25 minutes from my house. So me and my brothers and parents would always haul down there and, catch games. And, it's a really fun barn. So if I got the chance to play in there, that'd be unreal.
Well, Isaac, you're continuing on in college, obviously, Michigan State behind you. Congratulations again on winning the gold medal with Team USA and continued success, and hope to see you in the show very soon.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate you. As you know, the National Football League playoffs start this weekend with the wild card round, and there are plenty of pigskin fans in the National Hockey League. One of them is Charlie McAvoy of the Boston Bruins, who is not only the team's fantasy football commissioner, but also a massive New York Giants fan. So we asked Charlie if he wanted to be the official NFL playoff prognosticator of a hockey podcast, and he said yes. So here are the Charlie McAvoy NFL playoff Stone Cold Lock of the Weekend, which perhaps will one day be sponsored by McAvoy Plumbing and Heating of Nassau County. The Cleveland Browns over the Houston Texans, the Kansas City Chiefs over the Miami Dolphins, the Buffalo Bills over the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys over the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions over the Los Angeles Rams, and the EAGLES Eagles over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Maybe we should start calling him Chalky McAvoy based on how many favorites he picked. Follow his picks each week here on The Drop and join Charlie for a live Super Bowl pick the week of the big game.
If it takes you 15 minutes to determine if it's offside or not, it probably doesn't really matter. I talked to the linesman after. Ultimately, it's not their call, I guess. Obviously they said it came down from the league, but you zoom in, you keep zooming in until you can't zoom in anymore, and I guess it's offside. So, you know what? So these are calls that change games, and ultimately it didn't go our way. That was a big call. It would have really hurt them, and I thought it should have been onside. I mean, it's kind of possession too, right? Like the argument of possession. That whole debate can start again. It was such a close one. You'd like to see it. I think the NHL uses the analogy dead wrong, right? If it's dead wrong or something like that. I don't know what they say. Like they want it to be clear and obvious, right? That one's certainly not clear and obvious.
So that was Connor McDavid talking about the controversial offside call. The goal was called back. It was ruled a no goal, and Connor McDavid had some thoughts about it. First of all, I want to say that it was very refreshing to hear Connor McDavid give his thoughts at length like that, Wish. It was very nice to hear him with a very insightful response like that, being a superstar in the league. So that was nice to hear.
Arda, I've been saying for years, I had a really good conversation with Connor once at the NHL Awards in Vegas, and I saw it. That this kid, if he wanted to be the Che Guevara of NHL labor, he could be it. He's got it all there. He's got a passion for it. He's got a passion for how good the game should be. He's got a passion for how the players should be treated. If he ever wanted to just be, grab the flag and be the leader for these players and labor talks or something, I think Connor's the guy to do it.
So that was an MVP caliber response from often the MVP in the league. The MVP of our broadcasts is our rules analyst, Dave Jackson, who joins us right now to talk all things offside. Dave, at some point, we're going to have to bring you back to do a whole career retrospective, do a cool deep dive into your career because you had an illustrious one. But thank you for joining us here specifically to talk about just a deep dive into offsides. You spoke about it at length on the broadcast, the Oilers and Blackhawks game, the idea of possession and what exactly was happening in the 10 to 15 minutes as they were deliberating this call. So just take us through for those that are still a little murky on what the process is like, take us through exactly what was happening in that time as they were reviewing everything.
Sure. And well, you put me in the same MVP category as Connor McDavid, so I'm honored. I could not, in my wildest dreams, hope to be considered in the same breath as him. So
you're our MVP.
So I'm disavowing your comments there. And I got to say, I have nothing but respect for Connor McDavid. I was fortunate enough to still be on the ice working when he came into the league for his first few seasons. Great player, one of the best I've ever seen. Possibly, as Ray Ferraro said, end up being the best player ever.
Was he a talker? Did he talk with you a lot?
No, he left us alone.
Oh, wow, okay.
He'd ask for explanations. Always respectful. And never. I have nothing negative to say about Connor McDavid. Just a leader, prince of a person. But I will say, and I'm full transparency, I didn't get to hear, or I haven't heard his press conference, but I have read snippets of it on Twitter. And this isn't to him directly, but just in general, I've yet to see a player complain about the length of a review when it goes in their team's favor.
I mean, fair point. Fair point.
I've never seen a team get the goal allowed to stand, and they get credit for the goal, and then go off afterwards, but how long it took to get it, to get there. So there's a little bit sometimes it takes too long. Obviously it takes too long. It goes against you. And I don't see any other way. Now, nobody likes reviews. I mean, if we had our way in a perfect world, we'd just play hockey and every call would be right. And there'd be no need to review these calls. If we're going to have video review, especially on offside, it makes no sense to not get it right. My only, and I've been saying this for a number of years, the game wasn't designed, the rule wasn't designed to be held to these tolerances of millimeters, a fraction of inches. It's almost an impossible task to say, we're going to make sure that nothing crosses that blue line a millimeter offside. Now, having said that, we could fix it by saying, let's put a line 12 to 18 inches inside the blue line, a thin line, like like the goal line. And if the skater puck hasn't reached that second line, there's no review allowed. So you're still going to have the same tolerances, but guess what? Linesmen don't often miss 12 to 18-inch offsides. So the frequency of it would be way, way lower.
Man,
and that might be some suggestion there. You just go, yeah, maybe that was outside by a half an inch, but you're not allowed to review it because it hasn't hit the, it's kind of in the no-fly zone right there.
But it's going to bring up the same arguments that we had about when they wanted to put the thin line inside of the goal cage, which is that you're putting more stuff on the ice. It's like putting another column in the standings. Like you just confuse people coming to the game more and more with putting more stuff on the ice.
Potentially.
The thing about offside review I wanted to ask you though, Jax, is like the reason we have it is because Matt Duchene was a country mile offside on a goal that was scored.
Offside. Yeah.
I mean, that's why we have it, because it was so egregious. You're right that it's become very myopic. I personally don't think we have the technology to really break things down pixel by pixel to get it right all the time. Should we get rid of it? Should we say, you know what? We tried it. It didn't necessarily work. And at the end of the day, human error will lead to more goals, which leads to more excitement, which leads to more people watching hockey.
Well, we all love scoring, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think the genie's out of the bottle. I think the technology is there. And I would say that 99.9% of the time we get it right, even if it takes a little while. And I think it was only 5 minutes. I heard people saying 15 minutes I think it was only 5 minutes, give or take. But if we get rid of all that kind of stuff, then you might not need me. So I'm all for the review process.
Yeah. Slow down, tennis. But Jack, slow down.
but more to the point, though, like, 'cause I think you hit the nail on the head with the genie out of the bottle. The problem now is that if you do decide that human error is okay, and it's game 7 of the final, and the cup-winning goal is scored on a play that should have been whistled offside, you're going to have every single person that's like, get rid of it now, be like, well, now you have an unjust champion because they couldn't review it. Like, you're right on that score. Like, it's hard to go back to human error once you've decided that there's a remedy for it.
People ask me now how the game has changed from when I did my first NHL game in 1990 versus when I retired, or now even working in 2024, how the game has changed. Now, you could read a book on how it's changed, the hooking, the holding, the speed, the conditioning of the athletes. But the biggest thing is there were many games where the guy would come in before the game and tell us, there's no TV tonight. It's just not on TV. Right. And the games that were on TV, sometimes there was one camera or two cameras. Now, like you said, Greg, if that offside gets missed in game 7 overtime of the Stanley Cup final, everybody, including both teams, knows it was missed. The only guy that doesn't know it was the linesman who missed it.
Yeah. And
that's kind of unfair to him when the technology is available, and unfair to the team who loses when the technology is available. So like I said, I think the genie's out of the bottle. I think it's here to stay. And as I said earlier, when it goes in your favor, you seldom complain about how long the review takes.
It's true. How about this idea? This is always floated around whenever, maybe it was 5 minutes or less, Jax. I mean, it certainly felt longer for a lot of people, but
sure.
The idea of a countdown clock, like Connor McDavid's point was, listen, if it takes that long to determine whether it was offside or not, then probably defeats the purpose in a way. That was like sort of what he was intimating, right? The fact that it just took so long, or at least in his mind. So what about, and hey, this would be dramatic television, right? Imagine like, all right, there's an offside review, put X amount of minutes on the clock, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, it's like the draft.
And
you only have a certain amount of time.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you can't determine it conclusively by the time that clock expires, then the tie goes to the runner and it's a goal.
It would make for great television. I agree with you totally. There is sort of a countdown clock for the teams. Now, they can't take as much time as they want. The referee comes over. Now, the more important the game is, for example, a playoff game versus a game in October, a goal late in the game versus the first period, or a tying goal or a go-ahead goal, you might get 45 seconds versus 30 seconds. There's no real clock. It's the referee allows the coach to look at it, because the last thing you want to do as a referee is say to the coach, okay, that's it, we're shutting you down, and it turns out that the call was wrong and he could have reviewed it. Right. So you don't want to be the guy that does that. It's too important. You want to get the call right, but you do have a certain time frame there. Let's call it a minute or less. Usually it's 30 seconds, 45 seconds or less. And the reason for that is you don't want the teams having 3 or 4 minutes to break it down and then decide they're not going to challenge. That's the philosophy, is what we've been talking about. You look at it. If you look at it once, you look at it twice, you look at it 3 times, and you're not sure, then you probably shouldn't be reviewing it.
All right. So here's my question. The league has told me time and time again that the referees like video review. They like the idea of there being a check and balance on things they might have missed on the ice. Dave Jackson, you are not wearing stripes. You have a guitar behind you. You are just Dave Jackson, a dude now. You are not Dave Jackson, referee. Do the referees really like video review?
Well, I can think back on the monumental screw-ups I had in my career, and I would kill the bad video review back then. You know what? I love video review. I really do, because for many reasons. Going back to the calls I missed, 90% of them could have been rectified by video review. And the sleepless nights I had, the lines on my face right now, I'd look 20 years younger if I'd had video review during my calls. But I think going back, especially when you look at goals being scored, it's not so much major penalties or double minus price thing. It's goals being scored. There's so few goals, and teams fight so hard to score a goal. When a goal is scored and everybody in the world knows that it was in or not, and the referee's the only guy on the ice that's not allowed to, it's unfair to the game. It's unfair to the teams. It's unfair to the fans, and it's unfair to the guys in the ice if that technology is available and everybody gets to see it except the referee. So I think video review is great. I really do. And it's all about getting the call right.
All I'm thinking about right now, Jax, is doing like a spoof infomercial with you for like anti-aging cream, but it's video review. It's like I'm Dave Jackson here to talk about video review. Referees looking 20 years younger, like just do a whole like infomercial on it.
all this time we thought it was Botox, but it's the situation.
No,
that's really the
it's not. It's not a daily. It's not a daily moisturizer routine. It's not Botox. It's video review.
Exactly. But what I will say, and Greg, going back to your question, people ask me, do linesmen just, if it's close, do they just wave it now? Because if they're wrong, it can be overturned.
Right.
They don't. My son's an NHL linesman.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to be the guy who gets overruled 15 times a year. Oh, there was a goal scored last night. It was challenged. It was overruled. Who was the linesman? Oh, it was this guy again. Nobody wants that. Yeah. Linesmen don't in the heat of the moment, they are so proud of the job they do. They want to be right. They want to be right every call they make. So when they're on that blue line, deciding whether it's onside or offside, they're not thinking about, well, I'm not sure, I'm going to let it roll to review. It doesn't happen. Same with referees on goalie interference. Mm-hmm. You go with your gut. You make the call in real time. Just because video review, it's great. If you got the call wrong and video review bails you out, great. No one's mad at you. So the mechanism worked, but in the eyes of your bosses, you were still wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be the guy that's wrong half a dozen times a year. Yeah. So no, they don't defer to video replay. They get the call right in their mind on the ice in real time.
This is why we love you, Dave Jackson. All this, the wealth of knowledge and information that you give to us. Every single broadcast, it is invaluable. And that's why I called you the MVP of ESPN, and I will stand by that. Thanks for joining us. Please come back so that we can do a deep dive on your career, because I have a ton of questions about that. And I'm sure a lot of people actually have questions, just referee questions in general. So maybe we should open it up to have people ask you random questions about being a referee in the NHL.
That would be great. You put a little segment in there, ask the ref, and we'll answer rules questions.
There it is. We just got a name for it. Fantastic. Jax, thanks for the time, man. You rock.
See you guys. Thanks.
That was a really fun episode of The Drop. Thanks to Dave Jackson for joining us. Thanks to gold medalist Isaac Howard for jumping on the show. Remember, we are twice weekly, Tuesdays and Thursdays, wherever you get your audio podcasts, and the NHL on ESPN YouTube. In the meantime and in between time, have a good weekend. We will see you on Tuesday.
I'm going to Chipotle. Bye.